On the day of my coming-of-age ceremony, my sister dressed up to look exactly like me and climbed into my boyfriend Leo's bed. In the middle of a heated haze, the young man sensed something was wrong, disgust flashing across his face. He ordered her to get out. At 22, during my wedding, my sister appeared in a bridal gown and publicly invited Leo to elope. Leo calmly instructed security to escort her out. Yet there was a flicker of emotion in his eyes. At 23, when I was holding a positive pregnancy test, overflowing with happiness, my sister took a knife meant for Leo. The blade cut her spinal cord. She would never dance again. At her hospital bedside, Leo pressed a gentle kiss to her hand, promising to care for her for the rest of his life. Later, I quietly terminated the pregnancy and filed for divorce. Guilt filled Leo's eyes, but in the end he signed the papers. Sorry, Miranda. Alice has only me. At 25, I returned to attend his wedding to my sister. The diamond on my finger glittered under the lights. Eyes blood red. Leo cornered me. Even if you want to provoke me, there's no need to wear a knockoff. That ring, God's stroke, was designed by the legendary Au for his wife. How could it be on your hand? I smiled. Take a guess. Why do you think he calls himself Au? Chapter 1. The Leo family and ours are about to be joined in marriage. In the published wedding photos, my sister Alice radiates happiness, while my ex-husband Leo gazes at her with fond affection. But this isn't their first time wearing wedding attire together. The first time was at my own wedding. Leo stood by my side in a groom's tuxedo. Alice, dressed in a white bridal gown, stood across from me. She smiled brightly and extended a hand to my husband. Leo, shall we elope? She asked. My wedding ended in chaos, while their story began in a dramatic flourish. At the time, Leo ordered security to escort her out. Now, after all the twists and turns, they're finally together. Some busybodies dug out the infamous photo from my wedding, two sisters fighting over one man. If I were Miranda, I wouldn't dare show my face again. She wasted years of true love. Good thing Alice is kind-hearted. She even invited her sister to the wedding. Alice is too naive. What if Miranda still has feelings for Leo? Especially now that he's the head of the family, everyone wants a piece of him. It seems the whole world sides with Alice. My name is Miranda. My sister is Alice. It's obvious, Alice is the treasured darling of the family. And I'm the cursed one who nearly cost our mother her life during childbirth. When it came time to register my name, my father casually said, "Just call her Miranda." The clerk hesitated, a trace of pity flashing through their eyes. And so I became Miranda. Names can be changed. Family favoritism cannot. From childhood on, whatever Alice wanted, she got. And anything I had, Alice would try to take. Leo was the exception. No matter how Alice tried to tempt him, Leo stood firm. He chose me, my father, desperate for Alice's future, even stooped to beg. Our family will eventually pass to Alice. If you choose her, we're willing to give up 50% of our shares. But Leo held my trembling hand tightly and replied with unwavering resolve. Sir, my marriage isn't a transaction. I'm marrying Miranda because I love her. After our wedding, Alice's scandal scared away every suitor. To soothe her, my father sent her to London to study dance. I once believed I was the lucky one, loved, chosen, cherished after years of being overlooked. But passion fades. That's when the real tests begin. It was another sticky night. Leo, hoarse-voiced, begged for another round, his hot breath on my collarbone. Suddenly, a special alert chimed. He froze, glanced at his phone, and in an instant turned from wild beast to composed businessman. Kissing my forehead, he said, "There's trouble with the Beijing deal. I need to go." After he left, I aimlessly browsed the bookshelf. As if fate intervened, a book from the highest shelf, one I could never reach, fell. Something was tucked inside, a corner of a photograph. I pulled it out and froze. It was from our wedding, but the focus was Alice, extending her hand to Leo with bold intent. The edges were frayed, as though handled repeatedly. On the back, in Leo's handwriting, "Perhaps I'll never again meet a love so direct and passionate." My fingers numb. I called Leo. He answered with the usual warmth. "Miranda, the weather in Beijing is so dry. My lips are cracked. Don't forget to drink water at home." I said okay and calmly hung up. He was lying. He hadn't noticed. The chimes of Big Ben rang in the background. He wasn't in Beijing. He was in London, the city where Alice lived. The day I decided to divorce him, Alice was stabbed shielding Leo from an enemy. Her spine was damaged. She would never dance again. I rushed to the hospital. Leo held her tightly, vowing to care for her forever. When he saw me, Alice pulled Leo down by the neck and tried to kiss him. Leo flinched, panic in his eyes, yet he didn't push her away. Their kiss was slow and full of tears. I turned and walked away. After a few steps, the world spun. When I came to, the nurse scolded. "You're 2 months pregnant and not eating? You fainted from low blood sugar. Luckily, you were in the hospital." Stunned, I didn't know how to face this tiny life. Still, Leo had a right to know. Leo, Miranda, stop being so dramatic. He interrupted, face full of irritation, not letting me finish. My long-absent father raised his hand to hit me. Leo stopped him but said nothing as he stood by while I was cursed. "You jinx! Your sister is like that because of you. And you still fake illness to steal Leo?" My heart turned to ice. These were my family, my so-called loved ones. Seeing my pale face, Leo finally said, "Forget it, Dad. Alice needs me. Let's go." At the door, I called out. "Wait." Leo frowned, impatience flickering across his face. "I'll come back later." "No need," I said, voice calm. "Leo, let's divorce." Chapter 2. After the divorce certificate was in my hands, I terminated the pregnancy alone, taking the large portion of assets Leo had to split with me. I retreated to a picturesque town in Switzerland to recover. They found me an eyesore, and in 2 whole years, not a single call from my closest family. I enjoyed the peace. Until recently, Alice called. "Miranda, Dad is very ill. Come home and see him one last time." Dying? That's a show I wouldn't mind watching. So, I boarded a flight home. When I arrived, heavy clouds loomed low on the horizon, signaling an oncoming storm. As I pushed the door open, the first thing I saw was a bright red double happiness character pasted inside. My father sat upright on the sofa, eyes stern as they landed on me. Alice clung to his arm, sweetly acting spoiled, and the harsh look in my father's eyes immediately melted into affection. This sharp contrast was nothing new. I'd seen it my entire life. It didn't hurt anymore. Clearly, he was in perfect health. "Father, I heard you were gravely ill." I raised an eyebrow and turned to Alice with a faint smile. "You ungrateful wretch." A glass flew past my temple, shattering into pieces. Pain pricked at my skin. I turned and made to leave. Alice reacted as if just realizing something, quickly pushing her wheelchair to me and grasping my hand affectionately. She'd changed a lot. Once arrogant and overbearing with me, now she appeared calm on the surface, though madness and desperation still flashed in her eyes. The blow of never being able to dance again had clearly broken something inside her. Years ago, our dance teacher had casually said I had more talent. That night, Alice had secretly scattered marbles on the stairs. Luckily, someone spotted her trick in time and warned me. But still, I gave her what she wanted. I faked a bad fall, missed the competition, and from then on, deliberately hid my talent, playing her backdrop. For someone like Alice, obsessed with being the best, how could she bear the humiliation of needing help just to use the toilet? She forced a gentle smile. "Miranda, what nonsense. It's a joyful occasion." Of course, I understood now. They'd tricked me into coming back just to witness Alice and Leo's wedding. I met her gloating gaze, and with a serene tone, I said sincerely, "Then let me congratulate you in advance, wishing you and your groom eternal happiness and a child soon." Her smug smile froze, and just then, footsteps paused at the door. "Leo!" Alice chirped brightly. 2 years had softened Leo's sharp youth, replacing it with a gentler, more polished charm. He walked past me, hands behind his back, and knelt before Alice's wheelchair. His voice, familiar, but now dripping with affection, said, "Guess what today is?" Alice beamed. "I smell it, jasmine." Leo revealed a bouquet of jasmine from behind his back and gently placed it in her arms. Only then did he turn to me and nod politely. "Miranda, you're back." We locked eyes silently. I nodded with a smile. Alice clutched Leo's arm and beamed. My wedding is next week. Why don't you stay with us for now? No need, I replied immediately. Alice's face twisted in forced sadness. Eyes misting over. Miranda, are you still upset that Leo and I ended up together? Seeing her cry, Leo frowned at me. It was clearly a warning, but I saw the curiosity and secret pleasure in his eyes. Don't worry, I smiled. A brother-in-law is just a brother-in-law. I'll be at the wedding. Leo pressed his lips into a tight line. Alice, mid-breath, looked like she choked on her own performance. Strangely enough, even though I was going along with their desires, neither looked pleased. But soon, it was my turn to frown. When I tried to leave, the skies finally burst open, with the storm too fierce to go out in. I had no choice but to stay the night. At dinner, surrounded by nauseating faces, I lost my appetite. Later, trying to sleep through hunger pangs, my stomach had other plans. I crept into the kitchen in the dark, looking for something to eat, but accidentally knocked over a glass. A long-fingered hand caught it midair. Leo, arms still extended, had me pinned between him and the counter. His voice was husky. Seeing you like this, how can I not worry? Up close, he noticed the cut on my temple. Does it hurt? He reached out to touch it, but I blocked his hand. A flash of pain passed his eyes. His voice grew cold. Did he hit you again? That's none of your business. How could it not be? I looked straight into his eyes, watching his emotions slowly cool. Sorry, he said finally. I was worried Alice might overthink things today, but still, I wanted to ask. How have you been these years? Without you? I tilted my head. Sleepless nights, gut-wrenching sorrow. His eyes widened in shock. I grabbed his tie and yanked him close. Was that the answer you wanted, brother-in-law? Leaving him frozen in place, I turned and headed upstairs. Only once I was buried safely under the covers did I let out a long breath. That pained look in his eyes when he saw my injury, it didn't seem fake. Just like the boy he once was. Punching my father for hitting me. Consequences be damned. Despite his family's higher status, Leo had been forced to kneel and apologize. His father's cane came down hard on his back, but he never made a sound. Later, as I sobbed and treated his bruises, he wiped away my tears and said, "It was worth it." But hearts change faster than seasons. He once promised to buy wine with Osmanthus and watch the stars with me, but all that youthful romance has long since vanished. Chapter 3. At 5 in the morning, the entire household was jolted awake by furious banging on the front door. From the second-floor window, I saw a long convoy of cars practically encircling the villa. A team of well-trained men in black, all wearing sunglasses, stepped out of the vehicles. I sipped my tea leisurely to wake up. After all, it had nothing to do with me. That is, until I saw who stepped out of the lead car. I choked on my tea. Crap. I turned to dive behind the curtain, only to lock eyes with a man smiling, not quite smiling, up at me, dragging my suitcase. I bolted down the stairs. Halfway down, Leo grabbed me. Something's off outside. Don't run around. Before he finished speaking, the door burst open. Ryan stepped in, face partially covered with a mask and a low cap. Only his fox-like eyes visible, slightly narrowed. The moment he walked in and saw Leo and me grappling, those eyes curved into a deeper arc of amusement. The more furious Ryan was, the bigger he smiled. That was his terrifying quirk. A chill ran down my spine. I shook Leo off and dove into Ryan's arms. So eager to see me? My wife returns home only to visit her ex first. How could I not be anxious? Guilty as charged. I kept my mouth shut. Leo's low, restrained voice came from behind. Miranda. Who is this? Ryan raised a brow and shot Leo a sideways glance. Clearly, I'm the current one. Leo opened his mouth to speak, but the sound of a wheelchair interrupted. Alice rolled forward, covering her mouth with a soft laugh. Miranda really went all out, hiring actors overnight to put on a show. Quite amusing. Really. Leo's tense expression relaxed. So that's what he thought. TCH. Ryan chuckled but then caught sight of the swelling on my forehead, and his smile froze. Acting. Huh, I love it, he said, curling his finger in a beckoning motion. Suddenly, A swarm of bodyguards stormed inside. Today's performance, beating up the abusive relatives. Chaos broke out. Ryan scooped me up with one arm and carried me out. Clinging to his neck, I whispered, "Such a dramatic entrance. You really need to throw away your runaway sweetheart of the overbearing CEO script." Humph. I was in such a rush to catch you. I didn't even bother with theatrics. That's so unfair to you, Mr. Great Artist. I tried to smooth things over with cuteness. Ryan resisted my puppy dog antics. Don't change the subject. I'm still mad. I poked his tense thigh, sneakily tickling him. Really mad? Ryan, pouting in silence. JPG, one kiss? Humph. Okay. Never mind then. 10. Chapter 4. Growing up neglected. I've always been someone who lacks a sense of security and love. That flaw in my character once made me consider keeping the child in my womb. Maybe a life nurtured from my own flesh and blood could love me unconditionally. But I couldn't suppress the resistance I felt toward this child who also carried Leo's blood. My mind split in two, thoughts tearing at each other. In a daze, I wandered into an art exhibition, but fate played a joke. Halfway through, the entire gallery suddenly lost power. In the darkness, a single beam of light broke through the ceiling, shining directly onto a painting in front of me. For a moment, I stood completely still, my soul shaken. The painting was still a bit raw, but it captured a young girl, just as raw and unpolished. A white ballet dress, a slender, proud neck. The sunbeams seemed to land only on her. It was life itself breaking through the mud, resilient and upward-reaching. That girl was me. I had repressed myself for so long, always hoping someone would pull me toward the light, but I realized I was the blade that cut through the darkness all along. My mind cleared. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. When I opened them again, the lights had returned to the gallery. Before leaving, I took one last look at the painting. Title, Upward. Artist, AU. I touched my belly gently, then laid myself on the operating table. I didn't want shackles. I didn't want burdens. I didn't want a byproduct of pain. Rather than depending on others to give me meaning, I chose to love myself. After recovering, I traveled the world. Whenever I found a place I liked, I stayed for a month or two. During one warm and breezy summer, I sat beneath the sycamores watching the clouds drift and gather. The lake shimmered in the distance. A lightness began to flow through me, from heart to limbs. Ever since seeing that painting, something had stirred inside me, a heartbeat louder than cicadas, a voice whispering clearly, I wanted to dance. So the vast earth became my stage, the flowing water my accompaniment. I spun. I leaped. The girl I once was finally tore through the cocoon of self-restraint. In a foreign land, with no one to answer to, I bloomed fully. When the dance ended, applause echoed from behind me, long and unrelenting. I turned around and met a pair of intense, emotional eyes. A broad-shouldered man knelt against a tree trunk, a sketchbook on his lap. The drawing was just a few strokes in. He seemed so absorbed that the paint on his brush had already dried. I smiled and thanked him, then turned to embrace the next mountain, the next ocean. Behind me came his slightly urgent, but certain voice. My name is Ryan. Don't forget me next time. Fate is strange like that. I traveled across beautiful landscapes, but nowhere felt quite as peaceful and comforting as home soil. Eventually, I opened a little shop by a Rye Lake. It was a bookstore, a cafe, and a flower shop. What I did each day depended entirely on my mood. One sunny afternoon, I was dozing off at the counter. A shadow blocked the light above me. The wind chimes hanging under the eaves jingled. I looked up and met those familiar smiling fox-like eyes. Ryan chuckled. We meet again. Miss Swan. Chapter 5. Ryan painted a portrait of me dancing by the lake and gave it to me as a gift. Even though I knew nothing about painting, I could tell it was extraordinary. I carefully had it framed and placed it by my bedside. The more I looked at it, the more familiar it seemed. Just then, a knock sounded at the door, and my stomach let out a loud growl. I opened the door to see Ryan casually setting down a plate of freshly made cola chicken wings on the table. Dinner's ready. With a sigh, I surrendered to my hunger and took a seat. As expected, if you want to win someone over, you start with their stomach. Ryan shamelessly became a shop assistant at my store and even bought the house right across from mine. Bit by bit, Ryan took up space in my life. I even started to suspect that he had plotted this whole thing to win over a beautiful, wealthy heiress like me. After all, ever since he appeared, all my other suitors vanished overnight. He was clearly jinxing my love life. I secretly went to a temple to draw a fortune stick. When your true love shows up, the messy flings naturally fall away, the old monk said with a knowing stroke of his beard. But your true match, oh, they'll fight for you, tooth and nail, puzzled and suspicious. I left the temple wondering if Ryan had bribed the monk. Of course, I knew how Ryan felt about me, but all our encounters had felt too coincidental. I didn't dare take the gamble. Annoyed, I kicked a pebble along the road, which rolled and bumped against a pair of custom leather shoes. I looked up. Under the bright red ribbons of the wishing tree, Ryan stood with his palms pressed together in prayer. But he wasn't praying to the tree, his gaze was locked on me, steady and sincere. Then, he bowed deeply. A breeze swept past. Petals rained down gently over the two of us. A red ribbon floated down. Instinctively, I reached out to catch it, only to realize the other end was in Ryan's hand. I read the words written on it. If she is a fish swimming through the river of life, then let me be the boat that forever sails by her side. My heart pounded violently as I looked at Ryan. The man who was always so shameless now shifted his gaze awkwardly. Even his ears flushed red. That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned in bed. Ryan's face filled my thoughts. His painting still sat by my bedside. I picked it up and started poking the frame in frustration. Moonlight gently fell upon the canvas. Suddenly, something clicked. A flash of insight burst through my mind. I finally realized why the painting had always felt so familiar. I rushed to open the door. Just as Ryan was about to knock, his hand froze in midair, still holding the red ribbon from earlier. When he saw me, his eyes lit up with unspoken words. "Did you paint upward?" I asked. He paused, then gave a bitter smile. "So you remembered the painting, but not the artist." I tugged on the red ribbon in his hand. A moment later, the silk covered Ryan's fox-like eyes. I tied it behind his head in a knot. Then, I wrapped my arms around his neck and kissed him. "Tomorrow, let's go hang our ribbon on the wishing tree, together." All this time, while I thought I had been forgotten, someone had been fighting beside me. Back when we were both chasing our dreams, Ryan had been the hopeless good-for-nothing in his father's eyes, and I was the talented but unlucky student whose poor timing cost her the chance to compete. The day of the dance competition I missed. I didn't step on stage, but I did have an audience. I performed the dance I had trained for so long, filled with sorrow and resolve, just for a boy sitting by the lake, piecing together a torn-up sketch. Everyone is unique compared to your father's technically perfect work. I prefer the raw, overwhelming emotion in your art. This dance is just for you. In return, you have to paint that moment with your own unique flair. Later, that very painting, Upward, made Ryan a distinctive and celebrated artist. And many years after that, Upward gave me the courage to finally cut ties with the past. Chapter 6. I woke up in the afternoon. 10 kisses were clearly too many. What started as kisses had gone off track. My phone was flooded with unread messages. Half were from Ryan, rambling about everything, a cloud drifting in the sky, a puppy he bumped into, anything beautiful. He always wanted to share with me, but lately, he'd been leaving early, returning late, acting all mysterious. I had a feeling he was secretly planning something. The other half of the messages were from Leo. I ignored his hysterical questions and blocked him without a second thought. Back in my hometown, the place that held so many of my youthful memories, I followed a familiar path to a humble little bookstore. An old lady on a rocking chair by the door fanned herself lazily, not even glancing at me, smiling. I pulled out a bottle of vintage liquor I'd brought just for her. She snorted, waved her fan, and motioned for me to go inside. Hiding in the furthest corner among layers of bookshelves, I picked up a random book to read. Just like I used to in my student days, it was one of the few moments of freedom back then. Stretching up on my toes to reach a book on the top shelf, a hand reached over my head and grabbed it with precision. "Thanks," I started to say, then froze when I saw who it was. "Are you following me?" "I'm not following you. I've been waiting here," Leo replied. His voice carried a trace of nostalgia. "Back in school, whenever you were upset, You'd come hide here. I always pretended I didn't notice. But truth is, I was always nearby, keeping you company from the shadows. My expression didn't flinch, but Leo kept talking. Miranda, when I realized I was falling for someone else, I was probably more terrified than you were. But in a life where every step was planned for me, someone so bold and passionate suddenly appearing, it was hard not to be moved. I've always hated how my father's cheating broke my mother's heart, and yet, I became just like him. When I got your call in London, I told myself that this time, I'd never hurt you again. But fate is cruel, and in the face of life and death, I still ended up missing my chance with you. If you're finished, I said flatly, please leave. I'm not here to star in your grand monologue of fake remorse. Leo's pitiful act only made me more disgusted. He was the one who hid Alice's photos. He was the one who signed the divorce papers. Yet now he stood here playing the victim. A man with such weak conviction was the true root of all this tragedy. Seeing I was unmoved, Leo's eyes reddened. Miranda, I was wrong. I can't stand seeing you in another man's arms. You win, whether you tricked me or had someone else. I don't care anymore, as long as you come back to me. Oh, I sneered. And what about Alice? There are many ways to repay a debt, he said. At our wedding, I turned her down. But if it were you reaching out your hand now, I'd take it without hesitation and run with you to the ends of the earth. His voice was soft, tempting, like a devil's whisper. Don't you want revenge? I slowly leaned in toward Leo, watching him grow flustered, stopping just at his ear. I chuckled coldly. Leo, you really think too highly of yourself. Chapter 7. Leo and Alice's wedding went on as scheduled. I attended the ceremony calmly, wearing the promise of true love ring that Ryan designed for me. No wonder he'd been acting so mysterious lately. He'd secretly been preparing a proposal. Even though he was used to holding a paintbrush, he handled a carving knife with surprising skill. Still, my heart ached at the tiny cuts that now covered his hands. Just before the ceremony began, I went to the restroom, and as I stepped out, I ran right into Leo waiting outside. He leaned casually against the wall in a finely tailored suit, catching the eye immediately. The moment he saw me, his eyes lit up. Then his gaze dropped to the ring on my finger. Leo's eyes turned bloodshot as he grabbed my wrist, fixated on the diamond. You don't have to go so far just to piss me off. That ring is a famous piece, designed by the legendary artist Au for his wife. Why is it on your hand? Guess why he calls himself Au? Ryan suddenly appeared, striding forward and swatting Leo's hand away. He wrapped his arm around my shoulder, gently massaging my wrist. If he's called Au, it's obviously because he adores me. The two men stared each other down, the tension palpable. Leo, you and Alice need to be on stage now, a frantic assistant called out, ignoring Leo's fiery glare. Ryan arched an eyebrow and smirked. The groom's being called. Your bride's waiting, isn't she? Under everyone's gaze, Leo finally wheeled Alice down the aisle. Just as Alice, beaming with joy, was about to reach her happily ever after, the large screen behind them flickered. The wedding photos disappeared, replaced by a grainy surveillance video. Alice's voice echoed clearly. Pretend to be Leo's enemies and come after him. I'll shield him from the knife, just make sure it's not too deep. Once it's done, I'll transfer the rest of the 300,000. The guests were already whispering. Chaos erupted instantly. No, that's not true, Alice shrieked, lunging toward the screen, only to fall out of her wheelchair. Leo started laughing hysterically. You tricked me. You really tricked me. I don't owe you anything now. I can finally be with Miranda. Then, crying and laughing all at once, he whispered, No, I never should have divorced her. It was all my fault. All my fault. Without even glancing at Alice, Leo turned to leave. Alice clawed at his pant leg, desperate. Leo, don't go. The knife missed, but I really became paralyzed for you. The wedding that was meant to be the pinnacle of their love turned into a public disaster. Back in the car, Ryan hummed cheerfully, idly playing with my fingers. I pulled my hand away and pinched his waist. Was today's chaos your doing? Unashamed, Ryan replied. You have a kind heart, but I hold grudges. She ruined your wedding, naturally. I ruined hers. Childish. I rolled my eyes, then kissed his cheek. But I like that. Chapter 8. Ryan and I returned to our little shop by a Rye Lake. After confirming our relationship, the shop got a new addition, painting services. Ryan wandered around the place like a territorial cat. And when the mood struck, he would sketch quick portraits for customers who complimented how well we matched. Ayu's work was famous, but his face remained a mystery. No one would have guessed that this seemingly carefree employee was the legendary Ayu. Even so, his stunning paintings attracted many. Some offered large sums for a custom piece. Ryan just scoffed. Not interested. I'm too busy spoiling my wife. So on many lovely days, our shop hung a closed sign. Owners out falling in love. Closed for the day. The unique vibe of the shop attracted all kinds of interesting people. And little by little, our place grew popular. One evening, under skies painted with crimson clouds, a familiar yet distant figure walked into the shop. He paused at the counter for a long time, and his gaze was so intense that I looked up instinctively. Leo gave a faint, hoarse smile. "Can I get a cappuccino?" He was thinner, his face shadowed by faint stubble. His entire presence was like a still, bottomless well, calm, but filled with silent sorrow. We sat by the window drinking coffee. Leo looked like he had 1,000 things to say but never managed to say them. I stayed silent, counting down how long before Ryan arrived. The wind chimes above the eaves jingled. Ryan burst through the door, baby in arms. He walked straight to me, sat beside me, and plopped a soft, pink-cheeked girl into my lap. She wore a frilly princess dress and was chewing on her fingers, babbling cutely. Ryan sighed dramatically and looked at me with mock misery. Poor baby. Mommy hasn't seen us lonely peasants for 3 whole hours. Must be falling out of love. Huh? Leo stared stiffly at our little family, pain flashing deep in his eyes. After a long moment, he asked hoarsely, "She's your child?" The little girl giggled in my lap. "Yes," I replied. "She's already 1. She's adorable. See." "Congratulations." "Thank you." As twilight fell, my phone buzzed. The nanny was nagging us to return. I nudged Ryan. "She says we should bring the baby home." "Oh no. My ribs are still stewing." Leo sipped his coffee awkwardly, clearly out of place. Ryan clapped him on the shoulder. "Shop's closing. Man. I see. I'll leave then." Into the dusk we walked, our little family of 3, toward the lights of home. Behind us, Leo clutched the hospital report in his pocket. It was from the re-examination of Alice's injury, and inside was the truth about the miscarriage his wife had suffered. He and Happiness had missed each other by just 1 step. Chapter 9. Huh? I thought we were having ribs. Why doesn't it smell like it? Ryan handed our daughter to the nanny and tossed me over his shoulder. The bedroom door locked with a click. With one hand, Ryan pulled off his tie. "Dinner can wait. I'm eating you first."